So how do we raise the profile of employer branding, and how do we make sure that the industry rises together, and in particular making sure that employer branding is seen as a real strategic business asset? Well, I've just got the person to talk to today, and that is Sani. How are you doing, Sani?
I'm doing fine, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. It's a good way to finish off the week, is chatting about this topic. But look, probably a few months ago, a couple of months ago, I started seeing your content on LinkedIn, and it's great. I think the first thing I saw was you doing I'm off on a shoot, photo shoot. Come and join me, and it's like, oh, brilliant! Like YouTube vibes on LinkedIn, fantastic. Then I saw another video you were talking about content and AEO and GEO, which is fantastic. So I'm seeing someone who's committed to creating content for LinkedIn. So I thought I just had to get you on the podcast, because I really do think that the more people doing what you're doing and taking time out to actually create this content, the better everyone's going to be, because you're sharing your knowledge about things, you're raising your own profile, raising the profile of your business, but also you're helping other people as well. So we get on with the chat.
Yeah, let's start it. I'm looking forward. Thanks for the invitation.
So let's start off with a bit of an intro for people who don't know you. A bit of a kind of a within a minute kind of history of your career.
Yeah, sure. So I have my studies. My training is classic marketing, very much focused on B2C. So after my studies, I started off with one of the big FMCG brands. In my case, it was Danone, the yogurt company, doing brand management and brand marketing for kids. But then I changed the industry to one of the biggest German food retailers, and that's where I started to get to know employer branding as well. And I just realized that this part of, I call it marketing, is more fun than classic FMCG brand management and brand marketing. And that's why I stuck into that and stuck with this part of marketing and part. And because of private reasons, I also wanted to change my job again. And then it was where KWS was in front of me with the job post. I didn't know KWS. And I think most of the people outside of the agricultural industry won't know KWS. But the job sounded good. My manager was really good. There was this kind of click in the interviews. And so I just started with that company. And KWS is one of the leading plant breeding companies of the world, but also at the same time a hidden champion. And that's why it's quite a challenge to work for that employer brand. But I see it as a challenge, and it's really fun. And that's why I ended up in employer branding.
Nice. And what's your actual role at KWS then?
Yeah, so my role is a global expert of employer branding and talent attraction. And in many companies, employer branding is very much directed to the outside to attract talents, right? In KWS, it's a bit of a split role of getting talents, kind of attracting talents to KWS, but also working to the inside. So communicating the employer brand also to existing employees to retain them in our company. So it's internal and external.
Yeah, nice. And I really like the fact you've come from that FMCG marketing background.
Yeah, and there are quite a lot of similarities between kind of classic marketing and employer branding as well. So yeah.
And this could be a whole episode in its own right, couldn't it? But sure. I think around that brand management piece, the brand management is about, going back to what you say about your role at KWS, it's more than just the marketing side of things and bringing people in, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It covers the whole kind of gamut of communications. And
sure.
Simon Barrow talks about employer brand management, and he comes from that product management background, and so it does encapsulate more than just the branding and the marketing side of things. But anyway, I'll stop rabbiting on about that. That's another discussion for later on. But so look, why did you start creating content on LinkedIn? What made you think, okay, I'm going to take time out of my busy schedule to actually create this content?
I would say it was two main reasons. The first was from the job. We as a team wanted to create a social media advocates program, and we were really just about starting off with a pilot with a few colleagues who are interested in that as well. And for that group, I wanted to be a role model, because if we start that program, but I'm not active on those channels where we want them to be active in, that might not be the best case. So I saw that as an opportunity to really start communicating and posting on LinkedIn. The second reason was more of a personal one. Because of my job, I was used to stand behind the camera, right? Because part of the job is also creating content. But I was always a bit uncomfortable in front of the camera. So, on the other side. And I saw that also as an opportunity for myself to be more in front of the camera, get little, let's say, less uncomfortable in front of that, and embrace this uncomfortable situation. And talk in front of the camera, being more active, and at the same time being able to talk about topics which are important to me.
Yeah, lovely. And how much content have you produced then? Now, when did you start doing it, and how much have you produced so far?
Yeah, I think I really started around 1.5 years ago. And I think since then, I try to keep a frequency of one video per week. And I chose to create mostly videos because I like recording stuff. I like working with the video editings and cutting things together. So this was the fun part. And that's how I ended up having almost one video per week.
You said you didn't really have a strategy in place. Is that right?
Yes. In the beginning, I was just talking about all different topics which are kind of related to employer branding, and where I think I had an opinion on. But I also saw then in the numbers that it's kind of also difficult for LinkedIn to pick up my strategy, because I didn't have one. So it was kind of, just showing my content to random people. And that's why since beginning of this year, I tried to kind of professionalize my appearance on LinkedIn a little bit more by having a more narrow set of content I want to talk about, but then have it kind of played out and kind of discussed from my side from different angles. And that's why less broad content, but more in depth, and then from different angles.
I think that's because that does initially sound like the wrong thing to do, doesn't it? Or you need to have a strategy before you get going. And I think that's often what stops people from doing it is having that perfection before they start. And I think this is not only great for when it comes to individuals creating content, but also for organizations, because what you're doing is you're going through the process of, you kind of know where you want to go. You know why you're doing it. Yeah. But you need to figure out, one thing, what sits well with you, and also what sits well with the audience, and what sits well operationally for doing these things. So actually, by you going through the process of doing the steps, doing the reps, whatever you want to say, we're not the first person to say these kind of things, but
no, that's true. Yeah. And I think that's a very big advantage of these very fast-paced social media channels. And I think LinkedIn is also getting more and more into one of those classic social media channels. It's very fast-paced. So, and it's at the same time very forgiving. So if you did something where you are not very proud of, where you think, was not the best, in a few weeks it's gone. Nobody will remember anymore, right? Because in the meantime, there was so much new content in your kind of timeline. And that's why also I just realized in the first year, where I just tried out a lot of things, a lot of topics, I saw it as a really big experiment for me to see what kind of topics works well with my community, with my network on LinkedIn, and then also to see what does not work very well, so that I now have this kind of databases to kind of work from, where can I focus now from now on.
What did you start out doing? What kind of content were you creating, in the first place?
I think it was in the first place, a lot of those kind of follow me along because this was the easiest to create, because I was going on a business trip. I was going on a photo shoot, and I just bring the guys with me, say, hey, this is a day in the life. And then I think it was just a very broad mix of everything. So I think because of the width of all the topics, I cannot even remember, because it was really mainly random. I just came up with thoughts. Yeah, this would be good for a video, and just go for it, right? It was a lot.
Yeah. And what so over the last like 12 months or 8 to 12 months, what's been the content? What content have you created, and how has that been received by people?
I think it was really cool because I realized that throughout the last year, or let's say 1.5 years, I really could gain a lot of new followers on my profile. And I think I just had a look on the numbers this morning. So the last 12 months, I could gain my business network on LinkedIn by 35%.
Brilliant.
And this is really cool, because before we talked, I didn't really focus on that, because it was just, the focus was talking about things I would like to talk about. And as I said in the beginning, still is a big experiment. But now looking also into the numbers of how my network grew on LinkedIn over the last months, it was really great, right? And so this is really rewarding. And the second thing is also, people reached out to me, right? They just DM me on LinkedIn saying, hey, would you jump on a podcast like you did, or Chris Murdoch did? There are also people saying, writing me DMs saying, hey, I really like the stuff you talk about. And this is really rewarding, right? And that gives me the motivation that I'm kind of on the right path, that people like what I do, and I just keep continuing.
I think actually that's how I started getting content in my feed from you, which is because Chris Murdoch, shout out to Employer Bland podcast, and there's a great episode about AI, isn't there, with him. I think that was what happened, was because I saw his post and I then interacted with it, and I saw what you're doing, and saying it's really great to see, which in itself just goes to show, it's proof, isn't it, of why it's worth doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I find that personally as well, doing it on when I'm doing it, is the opportunities it's given me to talk to other people, is fantastic, especially when we're working from home more. It does give you that energy. Well, what's the what is your one or two favorite pieces of content that you've created? It puts a big smile on your face, going, that's why I do this.
So there was one post I remember. It was, I think, around October last year. And it was about job hugging, because I read an article that in these kind of uncertain times of economic volatility, people tend to kind of hug on their current jobs, even though they might not be really satisfied, right? And I thought, yes, that's really an interesting article. And so I made a video about this. And all of a sudden, I don't know, I had 150,000 impressions per day, which was, in comparison to my normal post, which kind of flowed around 500 maybe, it was going through the roof. And I just realized that it was somehow kind of picked up by the algorithm in the US, and people started to like and to share and to distribute and repost this post. So this was something, this was really cool. It was a one-hit wonder until now. Maybe I can reproduce it in the future. But this was a really cool experience, seeing that one of my posts really kind of goes to the roof. And I think at the end I had 3 million impressions with that one post. Yeah.
I think if we unpack that a little bit, I mean, there's tapping into a news piece, which is great, but also that is very relatable. That's something that people will either say out loud or they won't want to say out loud. Is that this thing about, well, what do you do when you feel that the market is challenging? Do you stay put? And that in itself has so many connotations in terms of, if I do I push myself out above everyone? Do I push my head above the parapet in the organization with this particular project, or do I just step back and take it easy? So it's great, and you had to do it in the first place to find out. So I wouldn't say it's a one-hit wonder. It's goes back to those doing the steps, doing the reps.
No, that's true. And I just realized now, after 1.5 years, I still look at the numbers, see, okay, what kind of topics resonate more or less with my audience. But now I just get more relaxed about all those numbers. I just see, and I use it to fine tune my kind of strategy. Where do I want to go from now on? But it's not that I want to get famous on LinkedIn or the thought leader about employer branding topics. It's just about, talking about things that are important to me and exchanging with people who are in the same field of employer branding, right? To get that exchange, to talk about things, discuss things, and kind of broaden the horizon. And that's why I just like to use this channel LinkedIn, use my content to connect to new people like with you, Chris. I think if I hadn't posted anything on LinkedIn, we would have never met, right?
Yeah,
so this is really beautiful about being active on LinkedIn, posting things, going out with messages to also meet new people.
It's true. It is. I mean, it's fantastic. It's really what LinkedIn was made for. Let's be honest. And I find it, like, over the years of doing this, is you see people at events and you recognize them. So kind of some of the job is done already because oh, hi, how you doing? Oh, it's great to see you in person. I think it's great. There's that familiarity that LinkedIn creates, and I would never have spoken to half the people that I did if it wasn't for what I was doing in my podcast.
But I have to say, it also works in the organization. I mean, KWS is kind of a big company. We are 5,000 around the world, right? Yeah. And I had already quite a few occasions where people approached me when I first met them. And they said, hey, I know you from the LinkedIn videos, really? Right? Nice. So this was also very beautiful. Yes. And maybe even a small fun anecdote. We had some recent changes in the executive board. And when the two new members joined our office to kind of get to know everybody, it was kind of funny because one of them said also, hey, you also, I saw you on the LinkedIn videos and I thought you were kind of an AI, right? So no. Hey, I'm here. I'm real. This is what you get. And this was also a funny thing. I mean, he knew me from my LinkedIn videos kind of in an odd way because he thought I was AI. But it was a fun thing to experience.
He was probably just wondering, that's the only way someone could be so consistent with their content is by using AI. It's that's really, I think that was actually going to be one of my questions about how it's the impact you've seen in the organization, because not only that goes back to the kind of my original part at the beginning of this episode is this thing about raising one's profile, but raising the profile of employer branding and talent attraction, which is really important. But there's also, actually, if you think about it, when you're doing it with employees, and as you said, you're being an example of what you're trying to get others to do, is actually when, as part of employer branding, if we get employees to do what you do in their area of specialism, then they get seen more in their organization. They're raising the profile of them, but also their specialism in the organization, but also then outside of the organization in the industry. So that's another reason why I wanted to talk about this, is because actually there are things that, and also by us doing it ourselves, you can take those learnings into doing it for employees, and employees can do more of this kind of things, and we make it easier for them to do it. The more their profile is going to be raised, and how it's also going to help the employer brand of the organization they work for.
True, definitely. And this is also what I see. I said at the beginning, one of the reasons why I started is that we had planned a social media advocates program as a pilot. Now, this pilot is also running since, I think, 8 months now. Okay. And I also see that people are really getting engaged about those topics they want to talk about. And now we really have a small network on Teams where we chat with each other, we exchange experiences, we ask for feedback before or after we posted things. And it's really good to see. And I think now the next step will be also to kind of roll it out more in the organization and see how we can kind of evolve this program.
What kind of content are they creating then? What are they doing?
So right now we have very active members from our corporate communications team, external communications. They have also a lot of topics they talk about. We have one very active colleague from R&D, and he talks about his field of work, which is really cool as well. But our goal was to not give them too much corporate content. So we wanted to kind of leverage their personality, their personal brand, and then indirectly by seeing that these people are working at KWS, giving this kind of indirect employer branding side effect, right? It's not that they have to be advocates for KWS and talking about KWS all day long. They are very free to talk about whatever they want, but of course there are topics which are closer to KWS and maybe sometimes even about KWS itself.
Yeah, lovely. Oh, brilliant. So that's maybe again that's another conversation that we could have, because there's a lot to unpack there. But that's great to see, and it's all, you know, a lot of it is started by the fact that you're doing it yourself as well. So you see the benefits for yourself that you can then communicate to others. So all right, if you think about how I started this, it's about, you know, seeing what you're doing is fantastic, and I really love what you do. How can more people do what you're doing? Because as I said, you know, the more people are sharing their knowledge and their expertise, the more LinkedIn becomes the platform it was meant to be. You know, the more valuable actually, you know, the scroll is for individuals, and actually they are learning more. So how do you get past it? You know, someone's going, well, I know I need to do something, but I don't know. I'll put it off. I'll do it next week.
I think if I were in the same position where I was 1.5 years ago, when I started this, I would just say, like the one big famous sports brand, just do it. You know, it's really the hardest part to just getting started. Once you start, you just realize, okay, it's not that bad. It's not that hard. And also the feedback I receive is not as bad as I thought. I don't have to be that perfect to kind of talk about things, right? And this is really the biggest learning for me. Just start. This is the most difficult part. And the second is you don't have to be perfect on social media. You just get going. It's very fast paced. What you post today will be kind of forgotten in a few weeks already. So don't be worried about making mistakes. Just be open, learn, and just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like with life, isn't it? You got to start somewhere, and I think we do think that things have to be perfect. It's maybe treating life like an exam, you know, which is understandable given that's a big part of education, isn't it? It's a right or wrong answer, you know, but actually, just doing it, I think, makes absolute sense. But I think with you, you're still very clear about why you wanted to do it. So I think, you know, but then the experimentation is kind of driven by that north star. But I think you're right. It's and actually there are various different ways, and you know, people can do this, is to make it as easy as possible. To use my example, I started doing just audio only podcasts because I had all my notes with me. No one could see I had my notes with me. And it was just a nice content with the stabilizers on, you know, and then eventually I grew into doing video and various different types of video. So yeah, it's good advice. What I'll do is certainly it's worth people checking out your content on LinkedIn. So I'll drop a link to your LinkedIn profile in here, and so they can check out some of the videos you created. But yeah, it's I really like what you're doing. It's put a massive smile on my face, and continues to whenever I see it in my newsfeed. And so the more people do it, you know, I think the better this wonderful specialism of employer branding and talent attraction becomes. So it is really important, isn't it, for business?
It is, and it's getting more and more important. Yeah,
exactly. It's one of those things where it's important, has impact on so many areas that it makes it more difficult to actually measure. So, but yeah, appreciate your time. I really enjoyed chatting with you, and you have a good rest of the day. Enjoy the weekend when you get there.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for having me.